Before I get started, I do consulting on where you can move. I'll work with you to find the perfect place for you to move to. There's more information at the end of the video about that. Now let's get started. When you think of gangs and crime, you probably don't think Nebraska. Come on now. This is Omaha. Going back 10 years ago, this place was HOPPIN. There was a big feud between the Bloods and the Crips on the streets we're driving on right now. Actually, rival Crips banded or clicked together to go to war with the Bloods. The whole city was terrorized while they fought it out. It was dumb and childish and very brutal. Today, it's not that bad here. Kinda. I was in Omaha checking things out for a couple days. I really liked this place a lot, which I gushed about in a previous video. As part of getting to know the O, I went through all the bad pockets of town that people agree are the worst areas. And while things have calmed down here a bit, the amount of crime in Nebraska would probably really surprise you. Today, most of Omaha is a very safe place, but not the area we're in right now. This is North Omaha, which is by far the worst area in the entire state of Nebraska for murders and drugs and everything else these people do. Because of the north side of town, Omaha is not a very safe place statistically. Citywide, 1 in 25 people here is robbed, beaten up, assaulted, or shot every year. A lot of that violent stuff happens here on the north end. Omaha's a very segregated city. It's actually been called the most segregated city in the country. This map shows that in the north end, where we are now, is almost all black, the south end is almost all Hispanic, and the west end is almost all white. Visually, the worst parts of Omaha don't look that bad. Most of it's abandoned buildings and a little graffiti, but it doesn't resemble anything like the terrible places I've been in the past. It's just generally run down all over North Omaha. Sort of like what I saw a few days earlier in Kansas City. To me, these Midwest hoods aren't nearly as bad looking as the hoods on the coasts. You know what they say, different hoods look different ways. Some of the roads certainly need to be maintained better, or actually paved. I didn't think I'd go off-roading in Omaha. I guess you could call these folks hoodbillies. Most young people get involved in crime for the same reasons. Drugs, boredom, trying to be cool, trying to stay alive. I think the trying to be cool part is the best way to describe Omaha hoods. People here might be hard, but they're not hard. This isn't Atlanta or Detroit. Many of the people who live here want it to be like that.
Man, Omaha Nebraska, South Dodo, man.
On the streets, they call this Omaha Nebraska. Whatever that means. Some of these people think guns are empowering. I'm sure Malcolm X would think that's silly. He was born here in Omaha in 1925. But Malcolm X was also a black separatist. And what's interesting about that is a lot of the black community complains about redlining. But black leaders like Malcolm X pushed to be isolated from everyone else. So are the cities that are widely segregated like Omaha suffering because they're segregated? Lots of people think that, so I don't know how effective the black separatist movement really was.
Nebraska.
You shouldn't say that. That's not very nice. Going back 20 years ago, Omaha had a crime rate much lower than other large cities in the country. You can see on this chart how crime went up by quite a bit 10 years ago. Overall crime peaked in 2012 when there were almost 50 murders here. Currently, it's about the national average. Officially, Omaha is 50th of the 100 most dangerous cities in the country. It's about as dangerous here as it is in Louisville, Kentucky, and Seattle. But there's other dangerous big cities that are safer than Omaha. New York City, Vegas, Jacksonville. Omaha's more dangerous than all those places, and that might be a bit of a surprise to you. Omaha PD uses buzzwords like community involvement, trust in the police, and tireless detective work to explain why crime goes down when it does here. The city has made an effort to reduce gang activity and to address homelessness, or at least hide the homeless from view. I don't know if that really solves anything, but I suppose it looks better. Omaha's growing fast, though, and they're gentrifying things here. There's a bunch of jobs. In fact, there's more jobs than people want. So if you're out of work here, there's simply no excuse except for laziness. Some will say, if you're born poor, it's not your fault. If you stay poor, it's your fault. But it's up and down in Omaha. Just when you think crime's going down for good, there's a big crime wave here. On a typical year, Nebraska might see 65 murders, which is the 14th lowest murder rate in the country. But while I was writing this report, I noticed Omaha had 6 murders in the first half of August alone. That's the month I'm driving around in this area right now. August of 2022. Maybe I should have been more vigilant. I don't know. This chart shows that theft and property crimes are up year over year. It looks like burglaries are down and murders are down, but everything else is up right now. So that's North Omaha. Now, South Omaha is also up there in crime and poverty, but it's not as bad here as it is on the north end. It's just about all Hispanics down on the south side. From what I've read, in this part of town, there's less gangs and more people stay busy with work and family. I spoke to people at both the Omaha Police Department and the Douglas County Sheriff's Office. While we had brief phone conversations, I wasn't able to schedule an interview with anybody at either jurisdiction. What do they have to hide? Why aren't they being transparent? Are they intimidated by a YouTube star with a map sidekick? Who knows? But I'm glad I didn't speak to the cops on the record, because I found somebody else even more interesting to talk to. I talked to a community leader in Omaha, and she puts into perspective just how Midwesterners can come together to work on making their communities better. I think there's a lot we can learn from her.
But yeah, Omaha, I think out of all the places I've been, I prefer to live here. I think the cost of living is great. I think it's a great place to raise a family. Our schools are great. Homes are well priced, and overall it's a good place. It's changed a lot. Yeah.
How has it changed, good and bad?
A lot of people have moved out west. A lot of people have stayed though, and we all blend together well. The one great thing about South Omaha is everybody gets along. It's so amazing to me, where I watch on TV and I see all this racial tension, and I promise you, it just does not exist here. I don't know why. When I grew up, we had friends of different backgrounds and from different places, and we would always have an exchange student or two in our class. So it's like we never had that that judgment or hatred. We grew up with our faith, and we were taught not to judge that way. So that's a big reason why I think South Omaha is pretty peaceful overall. Honest to gosh, we don't have any racial tension. Like, me and my friends will sit around and talk, and we're just like, I don't understand it, because it's just not a problem here. It really isn't. That's the unique thing about South Omaha. Another way it's changed is, the population's, it's got a lot denser. It's more crowded. I think just the overall kind of quality of living has gone down a little bit. And what I mean by that is South Omaha used to be a place where many successful people lived. Everybody kind of made the same income, but they were doing okay. And, we had poor families and families that had more money, but everybody kind of was in that same bracket. And I think now South Omaha is kind of looked at as the poor part of Omaha, one of the poorer parts. And I think that's true somewhat. But I also know that in South Omaha, another unique thing about it is that blending. You can go into Louis M's on Vinton on, say, a Wednesday morning, and you can go and there'll be a table of old timers sitting there. One of them's a plumber, one of them's a millionaire, and they all know each other. They all get along. It's so unique to see stuff like that, because you don't see that very often. See a doctor sitting with a mechanic, shooting the breeze and laughing, and socializing, and they do that. They meet and they're friends, and it doesn't matter how much money they have or who lives where or whatever. They all kind of we have a lot of successful people that live in South Omaha that kind of keep under the radar. You don't really know too much about it. Some people do, but most people don't know that you have people that are very successful and make a lot of money that still choose to stay in South Omaha because of its unique character. And I think that's interesting.
Yeah. Does South Omaha then get a bad rap? Because people say the north side's dangerous, the south side's dangerous. They're both or is that unfair?
Sure. I mean, it does. But I think it's naivety. I mean, most of the people that think South Omaha is dangerous, I don't think they're acquainted with South Omaha because I've lived out in West Omaha and I've lived in South Omaha, and I prefer it down here. I mean, South or West Omaha is just as crazy. I mean, it really is. Yeah, I think it does get a bad rap. It's unfortunate, people judge. I think, people kind of forget that just because people don't have a lot of money, they're bad people, or they're not, they're not good enough to break bread with you. I mean, I think that's something in South Omaha that we don't see. That's the unique thing about South Omaha is you have people from all walks of life that kind of blend together. And, out in West Omaha, you don't have that. Everybody's kind of like more well-to-do, and there's apartments and stuff out there. The one thing about Omaha that's changed a lot too is that so we used to have like the housing projects where we'd have North Omaha projects and the South Omaha projects. So within the past 5 years, they've started to build like low-income housing out in like Northwest Omaha. But when they built that low-income housing out in West Omaha, people went bananas, and it was a disaster. So they're building all these complexes, and they're these nice, apartments, cheaply put together, but they're nice, and they're for low-income families, and the crime rate. I don't think the people felt at home out there. I think they felt like they didn't belong, and it was made very well aware because I know the crime rate shot up like 500%, and within 6 months. I mean, it was just crazy, and people were livid that they put these apartments out there. They were talking about how their homes were, being devalued, and how dare they, and so I know that people that don't have that higher income, they don't want to live anywhere else but South Omaha or, sometimes North Omaha. People tend to avoid North Omaha, I'll be honest. North Omaha it's totally normal to see on the news that there's a drive-by shooting or, crime happening in North Omaha. Now, all you can do is pray and hope that, the people of that community have to stand up and say enough's enough. In South Omaha, we wouldn't tolerate that. It just wouldn't go down here. So we have our SOB.
What are you guys doing down there? What did you say?
We have our SOB like code. It's like it's so funny because like it's a real thing. Like here it's like our guys look out for the girls, and like we wouldn't tolerate the crime like that. Like you do a drive-by here, like you better hope they don't find you because they're gonna go find you and they're gonna drag you by your ear down to the police station. I mean, that's how it is here, and that's one of the great things about South Omaha. Like I run the We Are South Omaha community page. When I started that, my dad was the president and founder of the South Omaha Bikers. And my dad did a lot of charity work in the neighborhood. We had like an annual fundraiser and stuff where we'd clean up graffiti, and my dad's crew would kind of patrol the neighborhood and stuff. And they were an 81 support group. So, we wanted to make a difference and kind of keep the streets safe. So anyways, I wanted to make a page where I could connect with the community and we could all talk and kind of network and start a big neighborhood watch. Well, now we've got almost 10,000 people, and we've got the biggest neighborhood watch in the Midwest. So, and with that, we have lookouts. So I have got thousands of people that, every night they go and they check their block, and, people check in with me, and it works. It works. We've helped solve many crimes, and we've, found stolen property and found missing children and animals. And we had a missing turtle once. We found him within, I think, 45 minutes. We found him.
I don't think
but I mean, it
run very fast.
Yeah, but I mean, I think here in South Omaha, the unique thing is it's that sense of community, and it's that bond. It's the pride in where you grew up, and a lot of it has to do with that faith that we had. Our parents, we all went to church, and we all kind of, we knew that you had to be a good person, and that kind of never went away.
What would you tell the people on the north side of town, if you could give some advice to them, because clearly they are not as organized and as close knit as you guys down in South Omaha? What would you tell the people on the north end to get their act straight?
I've kind of had conversations with some of the community leaders down there. I would tell them that, it's okay to stand up for yourself, and you don't have to be aggressive or brazen, but you can say, listen, we're not going to tolerate this. And, you're not a snitch if you call the cop because somebody shot up somebody's house. I mean, there's, what's more important, that sub code or, taking care of your kids and the babies in that neighborhood? I mean, I don't know. In South Omaha, we wouldn't dare let anybody do that. I mean, it would just be, it would be completely unacceptable. I would tell them to band together and say no more. I mean, we take shifts here. We have people that will patrol the neighborhoods, and we do, and it works, and nobody asks for money. Nobody complains. We just take shifts. And usually when something happens, I know about it. A lot of times, even before the police get there, I'll get a phone call saying, something's going on down on 20th, or, something like that, so it's, people together can accomplish anything. And I think we're such a great example of that in South Omaha, because we've done amazing things, and it's after you kind of make that routine just a normal part of your life, it's just effortless. If you see something that's not right, if something's not right on your block, if there's somebody walking around that you don't know, it's okay to, pick up the phone and call 911 and say, hey, there's some guy walking around, or, if you see something, or if you know that something's going on, speak up, because it's important. And that's what I would tell the people of North Omaha. You guys have got to say no more. It's sad because it's only hurting that community. It's people don't want to live down there. The house value has plummeted. There's some really cool architecture down in North Omaha. There's some amazing properties down there. And, that back in the old days, that used to be the it part of town. I mean, that was where, all the fabulousness was in North Omaha. And if you go down there and look at some of those old houses, like Minnelusa and stuff, it's beautiful down there. I still go down there once in a while. Sometimes I'll take my kid down to Zesto's, and you kind of have to drive through a bad area to get to a more safer area. And it's sad, I feel bad. It's not fair to the people that live down there. I hope and pray that things get better for them down there. I hate seeing on the news, that there's so much violence, but I think it's everywhere. I think people don't really trust, their own government, and I think people just don't feel heard, and it's kind of everywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, you're being heard right now.
Yeah. That's what makes South Omaha so unique, is the people here in South Omaha, we get it done. We won't tolerate it. We don't want any riffraff going on here. We want our children safe. And there's also one of the things that is so unique about South Omaha is I've sat at tables with politicians and I've sat at tables with gangbangers, and I'm telling you, we have a code here. even the gangbangers, they do not want any riffraff going on around any women or children. Like, I don't know if it's, I mean, I feel blessed that they at least have that much respect. But like they just find that appalling, you know. So I've sat and I've talked to these people, and I think, you know, maybe in other parts of other cities and stuff where they have a big problem with, you know, the subculture and the gangbang and stuff, maybe if they just sat down and talked to these people and said, listen, we know that you want to do your gangbanger stuff or whatever, you do your stuff, but you know what? Be respectful. I think if you talk to people and you get on their level and you look them in the eye and you say, listen, I don't want to get in your business, but I want to make sure that, you know, our neighborhood's safe, and you should want to protect your neighborhood too. You live here. And you know, basically tell them, listen, this is your neighborhood too, buddy. You know, I mean, I've done that. I've sat down and I've talked to people that most people wouldn't even talk to, and it works. People just want to be heard. They want to feel like they're part of something. And when you look at a person in the eyes and you say, listen, you got to make sure that everything's cool. You know, we can't have this here. We've got children. 90% of the time, they're going to agree. I mean, they always have. I mean,
why do you think it's worse now? You mentioned that we never used to have that kind of stuff in Omaha before. Now it's there. Why is Omaha getting worse with some of the things that you're not happy about?
Well, honestly, I think we live in an age now where everything's like technology, and a lot of people don't understand that, and life's just different. And a lot of people, you know, they're poor. They don't feel like they fit in, and there's a lot of emotional stress. And you know, life's hard. People do drugs. People take drugs and they drink because life is hard and they don't want to deal with it. And I know what that's like. I think that we have a serious problem with, you know, drugs and alcohol. And I think that, you know, things are expensive. People can't afford, you know, to have a decent place. And, you know, there's so much competition too. Like you have, like our kids nowadays, and all this technology and stuff, it's like kids feel like they have to compete. I mean, there's more filters. You can't even take a picture without putting a filter on it. And everything's so fake, you know. That affects people's inner being, you know, when you can't be yourself and you feel like you have to put on this facade. What does that do to your insides? You know, it's always about all the outside. What about your insides?
I have to say though, like you guys have done, I very rarely talk to people who have solutions and live the life that they preach and have, and you guys are doing that in your community. The fact that you've been able to lower crime and get everybody involved and stay positive at the same time. A lot of communities just don't do that. It's either past the point of no return or people just don't have the time or initiative to get involved. And what you guys are doing, I don't know if it's Midwestern values or Nebraska values, but I have very, very rarely heard anybody talk on your level that is actively involved in a solution.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of people in Nebraska that just, you know, we care. You know, everybody's caring. One little person caring over here and one little person caring over there comes together and they make a difference. And that is what's so special about Omaha. So we have a lot of people here that, you know, we don't want the big, huge city life, but we don't want to be out of the know. And we're just kind of, we have like that perfect fit. If that's the best way to explain it, I guess. Omaha's just like that sweet spot right in the middle, you know, where it's like, it's down home, but we have the latest technology and we're in the prime, I guess is what I would say. And that is something, my friend, that I do not want to lose ever. I love just being right in the middle, you know, right where everything's calm, everything's peaceful. That's what I love about Omaha. Truly.
Me too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation. And I can also help you find your new house too. Email me and I'll work with you on not just helping you figure out where to move, but I can help you find your perfect home too. That's right. I know awesome, reliable agents all over the country, and I'd love to connect you to somebody who can help you search for that perfect home. Hey everyone. So it's pretty clear by now that elected leaders aren't going to help you. If you don't like what you saw in this video, demanding change won't work. You're going to have to do it on your own. If you want to be safe and want your community to be a place where people want to live, you're going to have to clean the place up yourselves. You're going to have to work with your friends and neighbors to lower crime. Politicians clearly don't care as much anymore. It's up to us.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.